Hey, mashed potatoes, welcome back to another episode of Miniature Mashup. Today we're gonna make ourselves a huge Bulette miniature out of dollar store items. Now, I have taken a crack at this before, and it got mixed responses, so we're gonna try it again. This time I'm gonna make something that's a lot more accurate to the art that you see in the D&D book, something that's a little more similar to the miniatures that are commercially available. Speaking of which, you can get a size large through Reaper Bones Bulette for about $4, $4 to $5 I've seen this thing go. It's, I'm sorry, not Reaper Bones, D&D Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures Bulette. The Reaper Bones one is called The Burrowing Horror. That's a Reaper Bones, that's a size large, and that one is $5. But collectability has driven the price of the pre-paints way up, and after that the price sort of skyrockets. So today I'm going to show you how to make one for about $2, a hair more if you count some of the craft items that are necessary. Hey, let's get started. So shout out to Buddy Cordero for donating this plastic dollar store shark. And I've also got a pair of dollar store ankylosauruses over here. They're going to be the body. I've got two different poses. They're two different qualities. I think I'm going to use this one on the left here. This one on the right. Just a little bit cartoony and smooth for this. So, first thing we're going to do is chop the head off that ankylosaurus with a razor knife. I'm going to do it as far up the neck as possible because I can always trim the neck down afterwards. Same principle applies to the shark when cutting off his head. I'm going to cut it as close to the body as possible because I can always trim the head down after. I'd rather have extra and then trim to get it to fit. You don't want to cut it too short because once you've done that, there's no going back. Or if you go back, you have to glue plastic together more than you need to. Let's not do that. As we can see, they don't fit right away. I've got to trim the ankylosaurus neck down a little bit. I've got to make it a little more narrow. I do want to put something inside that shark head so it's got a little structure. There's a way to trim it down with the spikes where we can get it to fit pretty dang well. Obviously, there's a very obvious seam there. We're going to have to cover that up, but right now it fits, no glue, nothing. Just sits there nicely, so we know it's pretty good. We're not going to keep the ankylosaurus bulb club tail. Trim it down to a fine point. We're going to cover this up later, so if it's a little bit of a rough cut, don't worry about it. We're going to patch it up later with a little bit of putty. Now we're going to need a dorsal fin to make it more like a land shark. The regular dorsal fin on this dollar store shark is a little small, so we're actually going to take the tail and use that as a dorsal fin, because that dollar store shark is just a smaller toy and it's not going to look good. That's going to get lost. I'm also going to cut a little flat patch here so we get a nice spot to stick the dorsal fin. Just going to shave that a little bit. Don't want to have to stick it to paint. Don't want to stick it to a bubbled surface. Now we're going to base this guy, and to do that, we're going to use a can that we've cut with a safety can opener. So we've got a can lid here. I'm just going to mark the spots where his feet would go. Only need 2 spots. And then we're going to punch a couple holes in with some nails. And we're going to take some small screws and we're going to put them up in the feet. And it helps when you do that. It's not necessary to start a little pilot hole in the dinosaur's foot, and then you can just drive that screw in there, and that's going to hold better than any glue. You can just drive it all the way up. Just screw that as hard as you can. Okay, we're probably going to edit that out. And once those screws are in there, you can see that base isn't going anywhere. It's rock solid. Now I've mixed up a bunch of 2-part epoxy, and I'm going to fill the shark's head with that 2-part epoxy. Just as much as you like. Get a good coverage in there. And then put that shark's head onto the ankylosaurus body. Be sure to adjust it and have it the way you want it when it's finished, because once that stuff sets, there will be no changing it. And we're going to use that same 2-part epoxy to put the dorsal fin onto that little spot we shaved for it. I tried to center it as much as possible. It's okay if there's a little excess there. Clean it up if it's too sloppy looking, but a little bubbling around the dorsal fin actually works as a transition from that pebbled surface to the dorsal fin. Now we're going to start working with the 2-part epoxy putty. I'm going to mix up a little bit of that, and we're going to start covering the seam up. Just going to roll a big snake all the way around the neck here. Using a sculpting tool and our fingers, we're going to just try to hide that seam as much as possible. I'm doing my best to sort of pebble that to make it match the ankylosaurus texture. I'm not great at it, but it does the trick at the end. You know, I make the putty flat, I cut out a couple of triangles, and then using the sculpting tool, and I use those to cover the end of the tail. After that, we're going to start flocking the base, so we apply a little white PVA glue to the top of the can here, and then we're going to dump our craft sand on top of that PVA glue, and let that sit overnight. We'll take this guy out early in the morning and hit him with some primer. I decided to use a zenithal prime for this project, so I lay down a layer of black for the undercoat, and then I hit it with gray on top. And then to finish the zenithal effect, I'm dry brushing some white on the very top as a highlight. Once all that's laid in, we're just going to start with a brown sepia wash. Forget the exact name of this wash, but it's the Games Workshop sepia wash. It's really nice. I used at least 2 coats. Want to make sure that white has dried before you start applying, you know, all the paint's dried before you start applying the wash, or it's going to ruin the wash. And like I said, it may take multiple coats to do that. Then I'm using a paint called linen, which is sort of a tan, grayish tan. It's an odd color. It's an off-white, I would say. And I'm going to start bringing out all the bony projections with that as a base coat, and then I'm going to highlight them with actual white. One of the last steps here, we're going to just start bringing out a couple of individual scales here and there with green, just to sort of break it up. Pure brown is a little monotonous and a little boring. We want something else to catch the eye, and after this, I added a few other details to the eye, and I added some green scenic plants to flock it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell, you don't want to miss any videos. Come follow us on Facebook. It's a great way to stay in touch with us and know when the next video is coming up. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider making a donation to my GoFundMe. The links for those are all in the description below. Hey, thanks for watching.